Hey, it's Brandon Vogt again, author of several best-selling books, including Return, How to Draw Your Child Back to the Church, and the content director for Bishop Robert Barron's Word on Fire Catholic Ministries. Welcome to video number 2 of my brand new video series titled Confident Catholic. Now, as you know, it's hard being Catholic in today's world. We're out of step with the culture in so many ways, so whenever our faith comes up in conversation, we usually get nervous. You've probably experienced that before. Hard topics come up such as the Pope or politics or going to church, or maybe moral issues like same-sex marriage or transgenderism, and you start getting really, really worried. You're stumped. You might have a sense about what you believe, but you aren't really confident that you can express it in a clear and convincing way. The most common response in this situation is to get frustrated. You stay quiet, you feel embarrassed, and then later you feel ashamed for not sharing your beliefs. Does any of that sound familiar to you? But here's what I know to be true. If you've ever felt this way before, you're totally normal. We've all been there. Even the most confident Catholics in the world, they felt the same thing before. But here's the thing. If you stay in that spot, if you allow this worry and fear to become your everyday reality, then you'll never move past them. You'll never make it to be a confident Catholic. That's why in this video, I'm going to take the process of becoming a confident Catholic and I'm going to break it down for you. We're going to get very, very practical, which will save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration. Specifically, in this video, I'm going to teach you what to do when your faith is under pressure. These tips will help you to start feeling free and unafraid when it comes to being Catholic, especially when hard topics come up during a dialogue. Now, it doesn't matter where you're coming from right now. Maybe you're a devoted, faithful Catholic, but you still get nervous or tongue-tied when discussing your faith with others. If that's you, you're in the right place. Or maybe you usually just avoid the hot button moral issues when you're around friends or family. And if that's you, you're in the right place. In this video, you're going to find out how to change that, how to become confident starting today. Now, just to recap, in the last video, video number 1, we talked about 3 big reasons why we're afraid to discuss our faith. First, we don't want to upset relationships. We don't want to make people feel uneasy. Second, we feel pressured by the culture to remain silent. And third, we aren't confident about what we believe and why. Recognizing those patterns is the first step to overcoming them. So if you haven't seen that video, you need to go back now and watch it, and then come back to this video. In that first video, we focused more on the problems that are holding us back, but today we're going to move into the solution. Specifically, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful tactics that will work anytime your faith is under pressure and you don't know what to say. Now, for many people, this is an entirely new way of responding to pressure, so pay close attention. Let's first look at how not to respond when our faith is under pressure. There are 2 ways that most Catholics react to pressure most of the time, and they usually make things worse. I see these responses all the time, but you want to avoid these, and I want to help make sure that you don't fall into them. The first response whenever you find your faith under pressure is to just remain quiet and hope the conversation will quickly turn in another direction. Now, there are a couple serious problems with this avoidance strategy. The main one is that we miss an opportunity to help lead someone closer to the truth. St. Thomas Aquinas says that sharing truth is an act of charity, an act of love. So by avoiding the topic, we're literally not loving the confused person who we're talking with. So that's a big problem. However, there's another issue with just avoiding the whole discussion. When we do that, we also hurt our own confidence. We undermine our own convictions. I remember as a new Catholic back in college, I would do virtually anything to avoid talking about hot button Catholic issues. I wasn't that confident about them. I was afraid, I was nervous, but then I realized over time that the more I avoided the hard topics, the more often I implicitly told myself that maybe I didn't have good reasons to hold my beliefs. I started to doubt them. And if I was worried that my beliefs couldn't stand up to scrutiny, then maybe they weren't true at all. Being silent, avoiding the discussion, begins a dangerous downward spiral. I mean, think about what that will do to you over time. If we remain quiet again and again, then pretty soon our beliefs will atrophy. Our convictions will begin to wither. I realized this over time myself. I saw that whenever I talked about tough issues, even when I did it badly at first, it actually emboldened me. It strengthened my beliefs. It gave me new confidence and resolve. I realized I could do this. I could talk about these subjects that for the longest time I avoided. So that's the first big mistake we want to avoid, remaining silent when the conversation turns to hard religious or moral issues. It might feel easy and right in the moment to just dodge the issue, but it will almost always hurt things in the long run. The second big mistake, though, is kind of the opposite of that first one, and that's to respond too aggressively and brashly, going full force into attack mode. I see many Catholics do this all the time, especially on the internet. They're usually smart, they're usually well-intentioned, they just want to defend the church and share their faith. But in their zeal, they come on way too hard. They're out to slam the other person into submission and to show unequivocally that he's wrong and I'm right. I used to be like this too at certain points during my Catholic life. I read books and books and books about Catholicism and became so excited about my faith that I wanted to tell everyone I knew about it, especially those people who had wrong beliefs. You know what I'm talking about? Those people, most of all, needed to be corrected. So I smashed and thrashed them with all things Catholic, like a bull in a china shop. But you know what I learned? The brash approach does far more damage than good. When you respond to challenges too harshly, attacking the other person or trying to shove your own view down their throat, you'll only be successful at one thing, and that is ensuring they don't listen to anything that you have to say. Being a confident Catholic doesn't mean acting belligerent. It doesn't mean you have to be arrogant or bully someone into the truth until they admit you're right. But if it doesn't mean that, then what does it mean to be a confident Catholic? Well, we just looked at two ways not to respond when your faith is under pressure, but how should you respond? How does a confident Catholic respond? Well, in my years of studying Catholic evangelization, I've seen many approaches and strategies. There are several great ones, and I wish we had time to discuss them all, but I'd like to highlight just three simple tactics here. When combined together, these three tactics almost always work, and they will almost always help you face tough conversations better than you are right now. So let's dive into them. Here's the first strategy. The first thing you should always do when your faith is under pressure is to remain calm. Now, this sounds simple, but it's a critical skill. Remain calm. Whenever we sense a discussion moving toward an uncomfortable topic, such as the sexual abuse crisis or abortion, our hearts normally start beating a little faster. A burning sensation might rise in our throats. You know what I'm talking about? We're worried we might be put on the spot or asked to defend our view. But forget all that. Forget all that. These feelings of worrying and being afraid and nervous won't help things. Getting stressed out will virtually ensure that you'll forget what you need to say, and it'll make it far more likely that you'll just get angry and defensive. So what you need to do is remain calm. But how do you do that? Well, you probably know several ways already. You just need to be reminded of them. First, take a deep breath. Second, literally tell yourself, remain calm, remain calm, remain calm. Third, remember that the church has heard every objection and has faced every criticism you can imagine over the last 2,000 years, including the challenges that you're probably hearing now. And it's successfully answered all of them. You might not know the answer yourself in the moment, but you can be confident that the answer is out there, and that fact alone will help you to remain calm. Fourth, zoom out your perspective a little bit and remember that all things considered, this is just one relatively insignificant conversation, And even if you screw it up big time, it's not the end of the world. Now, it's so important to remain calm so that you can focus on what you should say in reply and not get frazzled. But it's also important because remaining calm can itself be a persuasive argument for Catholicism. Calm people are impressive. Most critics think that Catholics are scared of open discussion, that we're dogmatic in the worst sense of the word, and we're afraid of being challenged. So when you're calm, even when discussing controversial topics, you disarm the critics. They see that you're not afraid, and they guess that you might actually have good reasons for your convictions if you're not shaking in your boots. So that's the first tactic. Whenever you find your faith under pressure, remain calm. Even if you aren't sure what to say, even if your initial tendency is to get nervous, take a breath and remain calm. The second tactic is to ask questions. Now, I want to underline this, highlight it, put stars around it, whatever we need to do. It's so crucial. Most people think that whenever they're asked about hot button issues, they need to give the right answers. But often, especially when you don't have a good answer at hand, you just need to know good questions to offer in response. Let me give you a few examples. When we ask questions, we turn the tables around. We take ourselves off the hot seat and we slide it to the other person, asking them to clarify their views first. So for instance, suppose someone said to you, it seems like you're a pretty religious person, but I don't know about all that. I think God is just a made-up fairy tale. How would you respond to that challenge? Well, first of all, remember, we remain calm, right? We don't get stressed and nervous. But next, instead of trying to offer a thorough defense of why we believe in God, we might say, hey, can I ask you something? When you say God is just a made-up fairy tale, why do you think that? He might answer, well, I just think God is like any other fairy tale figure, like the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. Well, then you might offer another question in response. You might say, so are you saying that you don't see any notable difference between God and Santa Claus? You think they're exactly the same? And he might say, yes, which could then lead you to say, well, if you don't mind, let me ask you one more question. Have you studied any good evidence for God that Christians have put forward? Like, have you read any Christian books that attempt to defend or explain why God exists? If he's honest, most of the time, he'll probably answer no, which will then give you a chance to recommend a good book or a good article. So you see how that all played out. Now, this is obviously a hypothetical conversation. It usually doesn't go as smoothly or as perfectly or as quickly as that. But you see what happened there. Instead of feeling all the pressure yourself to defend your belief in God, you can diffuse the pressure and turn the tables around by offering questions. In this case, the questions serve to undermine your friend's accusation that God is just a fairy tale. Asking questions is a powerful way to shine the spotlight on the other person's view first, rather than your own. Not only will this take the pressure off of you, it will also help you understand the other person's position better, which will only help you in the long run. It'll only help you to have a better conversation. So that's the second tactic when your faith is under pressure. Ask questions. In fact, I'd say in any tough conversation, you should be asking more questions than offering assertions. You know who is a master at this? Jesus. Just read the Gospels and see how often our Lord was asked a tough question, and then he responds with a question of his own. It's his favorite strategy, and it should be our favorite strategy too. Okay, let's move to the third and final tactic, and it's this: be charitable. There's an old adage that public speakers use all the time. They note that the audience remembers how you made them feel more than what you said. Think about that. That's so true. If you're in a tough discussion about homosexuality or whether Jesus was truly God, people will remember your tone, your attitude, and your generosity far more than the specific points you make. And the flip side is true as well. If you're angry and insensitive and snippety, they'll remember that far more than what you said. So be charitable. This might involve a few things. First, smile a lot. Mother Teresa liked to say that peace begins with a smile. So try intentionally smiling during a rough discussion. It doesn't need to be exaggerated or fake. If you smile too big or too often, you'll just come across as creepy. But maintain a subtle smile and you'll lift the tenor of your conversation, and you'll also feel more confident. Second, you might visualize the other person as someone who you never could ever be mean to, say a saintly nun or an elderly parish priest. How would you speak to those people? Speak to the person in front of you the same way that you would speak to them. You would be extravagantly kind, even when disagreeing about something, and you would go out of your way to listen to them carefully and treat them with respect. Whenever you respond charitably to people, you feel more confident, and you increase the odds that the other person will leave impressed by your reaction. Okay, so let's do a quick review of what we learned today. We discovered a whole new way to handle the pressure that so often squeezes against our faith. First, we learned to avoid the bad reactions, namely avoiding the situation or responding too aggressively. I'll tell you, if you stay away from those two responses, you'll notice an immediate change in your confidence and effectiveness. So make sure you're avoiding those two bad things. We also learned 3 good ways to respond, including remaining calm, asking questions, and being charitable. Focus on those 3, even if you feel unprepared to speak about certain hot button issues, and you're well on your way to becoming a more confident Catholic. You'll start to notice those bad feelings of fear, embarrassment, and shame fading away. But there is one more key that I want to share with you, and it's actually the most important one of all. You can be calm, you can ask questions, you can be charitable, but in order to be a truly confident Catholic, in order to stop being nervous and tongue-tied whenever your faith is under pressure, you need one thing above all else. You know what that is? You need clarity. We mentioned in video 1 how clarity breeds confidence. You get confident when you're clear about what you believe, when you're clear about the objections to your belief, and when you're clear about how to answer those objections. You're confident when you know how to clearly explain yourself to others. But how do we get that clarity? I mean, it's pretty easy to get calm, it's fairly easy to ask questions, and it's easy to be charitable. But how do we get clear about our faith? Well, that's what we're going to learn in the next video, video number 3. It's all about moving forward and getting clear, and I think it's the most important video in this series. For now though, before we go, I want you to leave a comment right below this video. So scroll down and leave a comment and tell me, when was the last time your faith came under pressure and how did you respond? I want to know. If you didn't respond well, then also tell us how you wish you would have responded if you could go back and do it all over again. This is really important to imagine that alternate scenario. Think about how confident and happy you would have been if you had handled the situation the way you wished you did. I want to help you feel that way after every situation. That's the goal here. That's what we're working toward with this video series. So let me know by just scrolling down beneath this video and leaving a comment. When has your faith come under pressure? How did you respond? And how do you wish that you would have responded if you weren't happy with your original response? Also, if you found this video helpful or the first video, please, please, please share it on Facebook or Twitter, or just copy the link above this and share it with friends. I want to help as many Catholics as possible to become more confident, and you can help make that happen. So please help me out by sharing this link around. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in a few days in video number 3, where we'll learn the most important key to becoming a confident Catholic. I'll see you in video 3.